This hour of the Costa Report is brought to you by Simply Safe Home Security. Now until September 3rd, get $100 off Simply Safe's special summer package. That's $100 off at simplysafe.com/Costa.
Welcome to the Costa Report. I'm Rebecca Costa, and thank you for joining me for another 2 hours of straight talk radio. I want to welcome listeners who are tuning in on affiliate stations in all 50 states, and also extend a very special welcome to our men and women in uniform who are joining us over the internet. Thank you for your service and for being with us again. In just a moment, world-renowned pioneer in integrative medicine, Dr. Deepak Chopra, will be here to offer a very different perspective on the rise of racial tensions in America, which not only includes the recent tragedy in Charlottesville, but also the newest Immigration Reform Act, growing terrorist ideologies, recent attacks abroad, and other differences which divide and separate one group of humans from another. We're going to try to tackle both the evolutionary and the spiritual basis for discrimination, fear, and violence during this next hour, as well as what's needed to turn the momentum in the other direction. But before Dr. Chopra joins us, as is my custom each week, let me tell you a little about his background. Deepak Chopra was born in New Delhi, India. His father was a prominent cardiologist who was not only the head of cardiology of New Delhi's most respected hospital, but also the medical advisor to the Viceroy of India. So the culture and discipline associated with medicine surrounded Chopra from an early age. Deepak Chopra graduated from the India Institute of Medicine and worked in rural India until 1970 when he emigrated to the United States, accepting an internship at a hospital in New Jersey. He earned his license to practice in Massachusetts in the field of endocrinology. Chopra worked his way up to become chief of staff at New England Memorial Hospital before eventually going into private practice. In 1981, he met Brihaspati Dev Triguna, an expert in Ayurvedic medicine, which, along with his encounter with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, changed the way Chopra began to look at modern medicine. In his view, there was no reason the best practices of Eastern and Western medicine could not be integrated to offer humans the best opportunity for health and well-being. Unfortunately, many of Chopra's ideas met significant institutional resistance, in spite of viable scientific evidence that many of the practices he recommends produce superior outcomes. Dr. Chopra is a fellow at the American College of Physicians and member of the American Association of Clinical Endocrinologists, and he has authored more than 80 books, including 22 New York Times bestsellers. He is the founder of the acclaimed Chopra Center for Wellbeing and recently published Home, Where Everyone is Welcome, a collection of 34 poems and 12 songs by immigrants who made significant contributions to the United States, from Albert Einstein to Carlos Santana. It's my pleasure to welcome to the Costa Report mind-body well-being expert, Dr. Deepak Chopra. Thank you for joining us today, Dr. Chopra.
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca. It's nice to be on your show.
As I mentioned earlier, we have the racial violence in Charlottesville, the recent attacks in Europe by radical Islamic factions, the new immigration reform bill aimed at keeping wrongdoers out and allowing talent into the U.S. These all feel like they are sides of the same problem, but I cannot quite put my finger on what that is. So let's start there. Are these things all related, and if so, how?
Well, yes, human beings have been tribal for as long as they've existed. So we had about 20,000 years ago about 8 different types of human species. So we are called Homo sapiens. There were other species, human species, like Homo erectus, Homo neanderthalis, Homo florensis, and so on. A species only mates within itself, but comes from a larger family. So, you have lions and tigers and cheetahs and leopards. They're all the same family, jaguars, but they are different species. So like that, there were 8 different types of human species. And then one species, us, developed a language for, basically in the beginning, people say for gossip, and then later for storytelling. And the more the story spoke to the tribe, the more powerful the leader became. So we became very powerful tribes, literally. Normally animals move in packs, mammals, but the pack leader can never have more than 100 people. The human species was able to amass thousands of people, including, which led to monarchs and kingdoms and empires and colonialism, etc. That phase of our evolution now seems to have caused a huge problem because we still have medieval mythologies, very frequently also under the guise of you might say religious doctrine or religious institutions, but we still kind of relate to those old stories about being special. Every tribe thinks it's special. And the problem is now we have modern capacities like cyber warfare, biological weapons, nuclear weapons, mechanized death. So that phase of our evolution should be over, but our spiritual and psychological and emotional development is still frozen in a history that is not relevant anymore. So this is a very dangerous combination: modern capacities and technology, and tribal behavior and identity, which then becomes ethnocentrism, racism, bigotry, hatred, prejudice, and extreme nationalism, which is, a sophisticated form of tribalism. So that's the common factor, that we still identify with a race or religion or gender or tribe or national identity. Those identities are useful cultural constructs, but only up to a certain point. America is built on diversity. The United States is vibrant because it is multicultural, has many tribes, many ethnicities, and it's a microcosm of the planet. I was at a meeting this morning where former President Obama, was speaking to a few thought leaders, and he was basically saying that extreme nationalism is dangerous and that globalism is inevitable. You can't stop it, as are issues like social justice, economic justice, and other issues that we have to face, like climate change, sustainability, terrorism, war. They all stem from a lack of emotional and spiritual development, which we so desperately need at the moment.
Yes, and as you point out, there are many problems which do not stop at our borders, and more we're having a very difficult time contending with those, like climate change. Even if one country aggressively attacks the causes of climate change, it doesn't really do a lot. These are many of these problems, including some of the terrorist problems, have to be attacked on a more global front. Now we have to take our first break, but stay where you are. We'll be right back with more from Dr. Deepak Chopra. You're listening to the Costa Report. Summer is burglary season. According to the Department of Justice, every summer, burglary rates spike. You go on vacation or spend the day away at the beach, your home is empty, burglars watch for signs you're not home, no cars in the driveway, no lights on, and boom! It's an open invitation for a break-in. This is the reason Simply Safe Home Security has extended their biggest ever summer sale to September 3rd. A whopping $100 off Simply Safe's summer package. I use the system myself, folks. It has everything you need to keep your home safe from intruders. And Simply Safe's round-the-clock monitoring is just $14.99 a month with no long-term contracts. Absolutely nothing to lock you in. This is protection done right. So don't miss out. This offer ends September 3rd, and systems are flying off the shelves. Go to simplysafe.com/Costa to save $100 today. That's simplysafe.com/Costa to get $100 off your system.
When I say Italy, what comes to mind?
Venice.
Capri. Oh my gosh, Capri was marvelous.
The views, the cliffside views, or traveling to Sorrento.
Pirello Tours.
Oh, Pirello Tours, for sure.
Pirello.
Hi, I'm Steve Pirillo of Pirillo Tours. With over 70 years of tour experience to Italy, it's no wonder Pirillo Tours is synonymous with travel to Italy.
I think of the culture.
And to walk up to certain areas and touch a wall and think, well, this wall's like 3,000 years old.
Being on a Pirillo tour on our anniversary was better than anything I can remember ever on an anniversary.
I personally approve every itinerary to ensure a stress-free, once-in-a-lifetime vacation.
Salute! Call now for your free insider's guide to Pirillo's Italy. Call in the next 30 minutes and qualify for a $100 gift card when you travel with us. Call 800-897-7176, 800-897-7176, 800-897-7176.
Every day, I wake up at 5 a.m. to give Dad his medicine. Every day, I wake up at 5 a.m. to give Dad his medicine. At 6 a.m., I make his breakfast. Every day, I wake up at 5 a.m. to give Dad his medicine. At 6 a.m., I make his breakfast. At 7 a.m., I shower. Every day, I wake up at 5 a.m. to give Dad his medicine. At 6 a.m., I make his breakfast. At 7 a.m., I shower. I start laundry at 8. At 10, we go for a walk. Every day, I wake up at 5 a.m.
For those dealing with the daily struggles of caring for a loved one, we hear you. That's why AARP created a community with experts and other caregivers for advice, tips, and support. Together, let's help each other better care for ourselves and the ones we love. Visit aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
I am done with my mattress. That's right. I'm not spending another night on this old bag. My new mattress comes today, and this thing is out of here. Bye-bye, mattress.
Yep. Bye-bye, mattress. So says you and about 1,000 other people every day. And that's a lot of old mattresses with no place to go. There's the landfill, of course, where they just take up space. But what a waste. Because you could send it to a mattress recycler, where old mattresses get broken down into steel, foam, wood, and fiber that become new steel, carpet padding, home insulation, garden mulch, biomass fuel, locomotive oil filters, and all kinds of other great stuff. So bye-bye mattress is right. But don't toss it. Recycle it. It's easy. And it's free. To find a mattress recycler in your area, visit buybuymattress.com.
Welcome back to the Costa Report. I'm Rebecca Costa, and my guest today is world-renowned pioneer in integrative medicine and founder of the Chopra Foundation, Dr. Deepak Chopra. And before the break, we were talking about some of the prehistoric emotions and beliefs which continue to fuel the idea that every tribe and culture is special, and how this has also included nationalism. Now, Dr. Chopra, you recently wrote an article about a neurological hate circuit that has the ability to override empathy for others. Could you speak to that for just a moment?
Well, I was actually citing the work of some neuroscientists who show that if they are shown a hand on a screen, but the hand is given different labels. So this is a Muslim hand, this is a Hindu hand, this is a Buddhist hand, this is a Christian hand, or even an atheist hand. And the people who look at that hand with that label, the part of the brain that shows empathy will light up if they belong to the same religion. What was surprising was, in this particular study, that even atheists' brains were more empathetic with other atheists and not with any other religious identity. So this shows, how primitive tribal identities are passed on culturally for centuries, and how we begin to identify with them at a very early age in our life. And we cannot have empathy for people, or it is difficult to have empathy for people who don't belong to the same, I'm using group or tribe as a generic term here. There are many other studies also, scientific studies, that show that when you are in a position of authority, then you tend to bypass some kinds of moral imperatives. So there are studies where students from good families were made to play act as if they were in a prison, and some of the students were prisoners, the others were guards. They were told nobody was watching. After a while, the guards became very mean-spirited and even cruel. So whenever there is fear in a society, when identity is threatened, then that invites behavior which would not be permissible in regular times, when you feel that your safety is threatened, or the group identity is threatened, or there is economic power or economic unsustainability or poverty, or when there are people who become leaders that tend to be maniacal or despots or demagogues, then they're able to harness fear in a very interesting way. I mean, that's what happened with Nazi Germany. That's what's happened with fascism. It's happened historically throughout the ages.
So if we're talking about actual inherited physiological tendencies to have empathy for those that are similar to us, that share a similar culture or even similar viewpoints, and to have almost hate or distance or fear of those who are different from us, how do we get around that? What do we do if really there's a physiological tendency to go in that direction? How do we overcome that?
It's I wouldn't say it's genetic. Maybe it's epigenetic. It's maybe what happens is that the gene expression changes.
Yes.
And of course, there's genetics also involved. This will have to be clarified in the future. One of the things I've been very interested in recently is that when I look at individuals that have chronic illness, you will see that today's chronic illnesses like diabetes and heart disease and hypertension, stroke, but also things like autoimmune illnesses, many types of cancer, propensity or likelihood of infection, is related to low-grade inflammation in the body. So if you injure yourself or you have an acute infection, then acute inflammation is a protective response.
Yes.
But if you have hostility or anger or fear or guilt or shame or depression or childhood abuse of any kind, then you start to get low-grade inflammation, which seems to be the common factor in all these chronic illnesses. Only 5% of disease-related gene mutations are fully penetrant. The rest are related. It seems now more and more data is showing that there is low-grade inflammation in all these chronic illnesses, and it can be measured through what are called inflammatory markers in the blood. Also, in people who have early dementia, only 5% of those mutations that cause Alzheimer's are fully penetrant. The rest are related in one way to another to lack of sleep or stress or poor nutrition or lack of exercise or abuse in childhood or some kind of abuse. And so my thinking has evolved even since I wrote the article, which was only a couple of weeks ago, that maybe, what happens to the individual then extends to society, because after all, society is made up of individuals. So social violence and is related then to inflammation in the body and also in the brain. And so one of my
you're talking about a very interesting concept, which would be social inflammation.
Right, but we have
very
social
interesting.
Inflammation. The world is on fire. There's climate change, which is global warming, which is a form of inflammation. There's inflammation in the food that we eat that comes from industrial food production. Stateless terrorism is an inflammatory response. I was talking to a neurogeneticist the other day, and he told me, he says the one thing that needs to be studied is look at violent people and look at inflammation in the brain, because it's very difficult to measure inflammation of the brain through regular blood markers. You have to either do a brain scan, a functional MRI, or you have to do a spinal tap. But they're developing new markers for inflammation in the brain.
So it may very well be that what is going on inside us physiologically is moving out and becoming a social trend.
Correct. Social illness.
It's a physiological illness that is now transcending physiology and becoming
because the environment
a social.
The environment is our extended body, and so is society.
There you go. Well, we have to take a short intermission, but stay with us. We'll be right back after these short messages. You're listening to the Costa Report. I'm here today with Scott Caraccioli of Caraccioli Cellars. Scott, we keep hearing about the wines that are being developed in Monterey County. How would you describe the climate conditions for grapes?
Monterey County has a lot of little pockets that give you the opportunity to grow a variety of grapes. It comes down to the match of location and climate with the varietal that you're going to grow. And where we grow in the highlands, it's prototypical cool climate. We're even in the northern side of the highlands. So that is ideal for both Pinot and Chardonnay. Chardonnay strives really well in a lot of our county, as well as Pinot, but I would say that this is the most optimal location. You get wind, you get sun exposure. The benches come off of the inland side of the coastal mountains. It's an optimal position. You can order any of our products directly from us by visiting our website, caracciolicellars.com, or calling the tasting room directly, 831-622-7722.
I'm Paul George of the Indiana Pacers. When I was 6, I had one thing on my mind. When I was 6, my days were spent playing basketball every chance I could. When I was 6, my dream was to make it to the NBA. When I was 6, my mom had a stroke. So I want you to learn the signs of a stroke fast. F-A-S-T. F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911. Because the sooner they get to the hospital, the sooner they'll get treatment. And that can make a remarkable difference in their recovery. I'm Paul George. Protect the ones you love. Spot a stroke F-A-S-T. Fast. Life is why. Visit strokeassociation.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
Women now make up 37% of the workforce, changing their role forever.
Harvard Medical School has now opened its doors to new female applicants.
The first woman is now in space.
The majority of last year's doctorate degrees were earned by women.
We've come so far, but our news is changing for the worse. More women die from heart disease and stroke than men, even though it can be prevented. Make a change at GoRedForWomen.org today. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the American Heart Association's Go Red for Women.
Okay, what are you wearing right now?
Nothing.
That's right. So Mommy's going to teach you how to dress yourself. Underwear always comes first, name tag at the back, then pants, then shirt. Get the first button in the right hole or you have to start all over. Socks going first, then shoes, right on right, left on left. With shoelaces, just take the ends, cross them over, switch the loops, the rabbit goes down the hole, pull tight, and you're left with bunny ears. Got it? Why are your pants on your head?
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush their teeth is easier, and it could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain. Visit 2min2x.org to find out more. A message from the Partnership for Healthy Mouths, Healthy Lives, and the Ad Council.
Yeah, it's me, your heart. Listen to me. We've got to talk. High blood pressure is serious, and yours? Whoa. What happened to us? We used to be so much more active. But lately, you've been ignoring me. I know you think I'm just gonna keep ticking away forever, but you're wrong. You can do so much more to control your high blood pressure. Doing the minimum isn't doing enough. I'm under a lot of pressure and can quit whenever I want. Bet you didn't know that. But I like my job. Just treat me better. Check on me. Give me something green to nibble on every once in a while. And maybe we can do some exercise on occasion. Let's get to it. After all, we're in this together.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you. High blood pressure can lead to a stroke, heart attack, or death. Get your blood pressure to a healthy range before it's too late. Find out how at heart.org/blood pressure. Check, change, control. A message from the American Heart Association, the American Stroke Association, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the Costa Report. I'm Rebecca Costa, and if you're just joining us, my guest today is Dr. Deepak Chopra. And we've been talking about this idea of social inflammation. Just as physical inflammation has been associated with ailments like stroke, cancers, diabetes, hypertension, and so on, we can also see evidence of social illnesses caused by inflammation in our physical and our social environment, from climate change, growing terrorism, racism, and violence. They are all connected. They're all interrelated. And I wanted to give you an opportunity to finish your thoughts on that, Dr. Chopra.
No, I think then once we can identify that there is inflammation that's hurting the individual, then the solution is not to create more inflammation. You can kill a terrorist, but unless you get rid of the inflammatory ideology, which starts ultimately in consciousness and the mind, it's like Medusa's head. You cut one and two more crop up. Ultimately, you have to look at the causes of what makes people first unhappy, and then you have to also look at the causes of what makes people happy. Now, of course, if you are in poverty, if you have no job, if you have been abused as a child, then you will be unhappy. On the other hand, if you are educated, if you have meaning and purpose in your life, if you have healthy parents, if you have good nutrition, if you're in an environment that supports your emotional development, you're unlikely to be violent. Now, we've done lots of studies at our foundation on inflammation, and we think that good sleep, stress management, movement, exercise, emotional balance, proper nutrition are very basic, but then also jobs, a social support system, insurance, and financial security, belonging to a community which helps you. And then, of course, as you know, I'm very interested in contemplative traditions that talk about meditation and the whole benefits that come from experiencing gratitude, self-compassion, and so on. So we've been doing a lot of studies on metabolites and inflammatory markers. And, long term, that is the only solution to the violence in the world, is to, bring about more social and economic justice and address the disparities in the world, which is something that I heard from President Obama this morning as well. And he said, we cannot have live in a bubble, which is basically in denial. So that's long term. Now, in the short term, we have to also recognize that traditional measures like building a wall, for example, it does nothing. Today, security is not dependent on building a wall. Security, we have the example that the internet and radio waves and everything else in media, there's no boundaries, So there were the biggest problems come from cyber warfare. We're still trying to see if there was Russian hacking involved in the election, but that's much bigger. That's a much bigger risk than traditional forms of security. And stateless terrorism also has no borders. So you have to go to root causes, but at the same time, you can create security through technology, and that is the best way to do it. It's like, again, being a biologist and somebody who's seen patients, when there's an acute illness, you need acute intervention. You have cancer, and sometimes you have to resort to chemotherapy or radiation or surgery. But if you don't look at the underlying factors, then you have recurrence. And the same thing is true with violence and terrorism in society.
Yes, but as you and I both will agree on, the idea is to do everything preventatively so you don't have to take radical measures. And that is where I think your work has been extremely helpful and very instrumental. Unfortunately, we are just about out of time, so let me thank you for shining a light on what can be done to heal the hatred and divisiveness, and more importantly, to help us reverse the momentum. Thank you so much for making time to be with us, Dr. Chopra.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Rebecca. Bye-bye.
Now, before we go to break, I want to tell you about some information I recently came across that I feel compelled to share with you because it is very serious and because I rarely hear anyone talking about it. Did you know that summer is also known as the burglary season? Every summer, according to the Department of Justice, burglary rates spike. You go on vacation or you spend the day away at the beach with your family, your home is empty. Burglars see signs that you're not home. There are no cars in the driveway, no lights on, and boom. It's an open invitation for a break-in. And this is the reason why I ordered and installed a Simply Safe security system at my home. I know you're wondering if I really did it. I'm telling you, I opened the box and installed the entire system in about 25 minutes in my own home. And I wouldn't tell you I did that if I really didn't. And I'm so impressed with how easy it is to use and the fact that I only pay $14.99 a month, $14.99 a month to have the police dispatched to my home if the alarm goes off and I don't answer their call. That my friends at Simply Safe Home Security have extended their biggest ever summer sale to September 3rd. That means you can get this system and put it in over Labor Day, which I highly recommend. So they have extended this summer sale to September 3rd for listeners of the Costa Report. And here's something you're also going to love because I did. No long-term contracts. Simply Safe is so sure that you're going to love this system. They don't have to lock you in like other security companies do. And in my book, when a company says no contracts, that kind of says it all. Whether you live in an apartment, a home, a duplex, a trailer, even a dorm room, take 25 minutes to protect you and your loved ones from intruders who are out this very minute looking for opportunity. Go to simplysafe.com/Costa and get your order in before September 3rd to save $100. That's simplysafe.com/Costa, my last name, Costa, to get $100 off. Don't become a victim. There's no reason for it. At these prices, just skip a couple of lunches. Skip one lunch, and you've paid for the system. Okay, fight back. Fight back, folks. Don't become a victim. Go to simplysafe.com/Costa and get your Simply Safe system. It won't take you very long. Just get up early this Memorial Day weekend or Labor Day weekend. Is it Labor Day weekend that's coming up? And then put your Simply Safe system in there, and then you'll rest easy, just like I am. simplysafe.com/Costa. And now we're going to have to take another short break, but I want to take a moment to thank my guest, Dr. Deepak Chopra. I know some of you are scratching your head and saying, what was that they were talking about? But I want to leave you with this one thought before we do go to break. Dr. Edward O. Wilson, who has been a mentor of mine for the past 35 years, he had a wonderful expression, and I think it sort of sums up where we are in terms of racism and fear and suspecting people that are different than ourselves. He said that we live in a time when we have prehistoric emotions, that we have godlike technology and medieval institutions. Prehistoric emotions, godlike technology, and medieval institutions. And I'll tell you, that pretty much sums it up for me. We're going to take that break now. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Costa Report. If you're a fan of big ideas and thinking, then you're going to want to sink your teeth into On the Verge. Jim Laird, John Scully, Alan Dershowitz, and dozens of business and government leaders from the full political spectrum have given On the Verge their highest reviews. And you can help drive the book to the top of the bestseller list by ordering On the Verge from Amazon right now. Our goal is to distribute 25,000 copies before the official release date. By placing your order for On the Verge right now, you'll help us beat that number. We need every listener to go to Amazon.com and order On the Verge as quickly as you can. And while you're at Amazon, order first edition gift copies of On the Verge for friends and family, because they won't last long. On the Verge, on sale now at Amazon.com. That's On the Verge at Amazon.com.
Are you struggling with addiction or alcohol problems? If you're depressed, drinking, and using drugs, you may need help. And the Affordable Care Act guarantees coverage of substance abuse.
I knew I could get myself out of this. I just needed some hope and some help.
I took the first step to recovery when I made the call.
Call the Addiction, Hope, and Helpline now for a free assessment with someone who cares. Call 800-962-6969. 800-962-6969.
I feel like I'm losing control. I'm afraid I'll lose my job or even my family.
Call now for hope and help with proven, gentle recovery programs.
I never thought that I could be somebody who didn't drink and use drugs.
I'm in recovery, getting the help I need.
Call the Addiction, Hope, and Helpline now for a free assessment with someone who cares. Call 800-962-6969. 800-962-6969. 800-962-6969.
It may be hard to believe, but people just like you are already saving money. FeedThePig.org makes it easy. Their simple savings plan teaches you how to start saving without going overboard. So you don't need to mooch off your friends.
You gonna finish that grape?
You mean the one in my mouth?
You don't need to stop buying the necessities.
What you're smelling is a natural musk.
Ew.
You don't need to be a medical test subject.
How do you feel? Mostly okay. Sometimes, though.
You don't need to get a second job as a stuntman.
We need a new stuntman. Let's break for lunch.
You just need an internet connection. Don't get left behind. Start your personal savings plan with the tips and tools on feedthepig.org. That way, you don't need to sell your soul to the devil.
$15 is the best I can do.
All right, deal.
Brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Hey, America. We need to have a little talk. I don't know if you've noticed, but we got a lot of food in this country. A lot of peaches, a lot of corn, a lot of apples, a lot of everything. We've got so much food that we can't even eat it all. So if we got all this extra food, how are 17 million kids in America struggling with hunger? I just don't get it. That's why the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks gathers surplus food and gets it to the hungry kids who need it. They can get you food even if you live in Idaho or Alaska or somewhere crazy like that. This isn't complicated. We got extra food and we've got hungry kids. Feeding America's done the math. Now it's your turn. Support Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org. I know you got internet on your phone, so what are you waiting for? We can't do it without your help. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the Costa Report. I'm Rebecca Costa, and if you're just joining us, we have been speaking to pioneer in integrative medicine and best-selling author Dr. Deepak Chopra, who has become quite vocal about the need for leaders to think more holistically and systemically about the growing danger of us versus them. In truth, identifying with people who appear similar or whom we share similar cultures and values is nothing particularly new. This dates back to the days when humans roamed the earth in tribes, and when we encountered other animals or troops of humans, we kind of had to make a snap, reflexive decision. We had to fight and kill them or overtake them, or hesitate and potentially be killed or overtaken ourselves. In other words, we relied purely on fight or flight, fear-based instincts to guide our actions. And from this perspective, we were no better than the lower animals who also rely on instincts to make decisions. But over time, humans evolved a remarkable frontal cortex, the CEO of our brains, if you will. Today, the frontal cortex occupies about a third of the human brain, and it's responsible for rational thought. And because we have the power to think things through rationally, we need no longer submit to primitive instincts and emotions, unless, of course, we choose to go that route, which some of us still do. The point is, humankind has evolved to the point where we are no longer captives of primitive emotions, urges, and instincts. At any point in time, we can evoke our rational minds and hit override and appeal to the higher instruments of our genetic inheritance. Sure, we might like to stuff ourselves with ice cream and potato chips and lay on the couch all day. But the vast majority of us get up, get dressed, and go to work because we know we can't surrender to the same behaviors apes and dogs do if given a choice. We have a frontal cortex. Most of the time, we use it. And sure, when someone makes us angry, we feel like we want to retaliate. But in most cases, we exercise restraint there too. And given time to cool down, those urges also pass. And sure, we all want to spend more than we make. And we have a tendency to say yes to anything that's free. And we want to be liked and accepted by others. But most of us guard against the dangers of excess, all because we happen to have a frontal cortex that allows us to ride above prehistoric urges. Even when pressured by our peers, we have the ability to resist. And when it comes to distrusting and fearing and marginalizing people who are different than us, well, the same opportunity applies. We can use our frontal cortex to think through these emotions and then behave accordingly, behave rationally. In other words, we humans have compensatory behaviors available to us, which other animals do not. And I'm not just talking about free will. I'm talking about the ability to step back, take a deep breath, count to 5 in the very middle of a heated altercation. We can choose to have automatic deductions taken out of our checks if we're bad at saving money. We can choose stevia over cane sugar if we have a sweet tooth. We can choose to ask questions and connect and find common ground with those who are different from us instead of dwell on superficial differences. In fact, instead of fanning those flames. However we might feel, we have the unique ability to replace those feelings with rational behavior. No other living creature has that ability. No other living organism can override like the human organism can. We are extremely unique from that perspective, which is why I'm such a big fan of movies where a group of strangers find themselves in a dire fix. They're stranded on an island, or their plane crashes in the desert, or they're on a ship that's sinking, and suddenly they need each other to survive. Well, if you want to see rational thinking in action, grab a copy of the movie The Flight of the Phoenix, or The Poseidon Adventure, or Armageddon, or even the recent episodes of the Game of Thrones, where you'll see firsthand why, in times of danger, different peoples of different religions, different cultures, different skin colors, they all join together for their collective survival. And it's a wonderful thing to watch. They all start out kind of fearful, maybe disengaged, and then you see the crisis occur, and you see everybody come together. And you know what that says to me? That says racism, sexism, ageism, all the isms you can line up are luxuries. Those are luxury emotions, luxury feelings. And the reason we know that is because when you can't afford the luxury, when you're in a survival situation, they go by the wayside. When we're under fire, when we need each other, when our very survival is at stake, color, religion, culture, they all fall by the wayside, and the rational mind takes charge. But you know what? It's a real shame that it takes a crisis to neutralize prejudice and finally bring humans together. It's a shame that tragedies like Charlottesville, Barcelona, 9/11, Sandy Hook, all have to happen for humans to come together and realize that the real threat is not our differences, but rather our failure to rise above those differences, especially when we've been blessed with a physiological capability to rise above. Now, before we go to break, if you've been listening to this program for any period of time, you know how much I enjoy giving away free products and services. So if you're struggling to fill a position in your company, you're going to want to listen up, because the longer a job goes unfulfilled, the more your best employees are taxed. They're the ones that have to take up the slack when a job goes unfulfilled. So you want to hire help fast, but not just any warm body. You want to hire people who can hit the decks running. That's where ZipRecruiter can help you. With ZipRecruiter.com, you can post your job to 100-plus job sites with one click. And then powerful technology matches the right person to that job. And you can imagine how much time you're going to save by posting a job just one time and then having it appear on 100 job sites. Never mind how much you're going to increase the odds of locating that perfect person for that opening. This is why thousands of businesses, small, medium, and large, have turned to ZipRecruiter. Unlike other job sites, ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It goes out and finds them. In fact, over 80% of jobs posted on ZipRecruiter, and listen up, 80% of jobs posted on ZipRecruiter locate a qualified candidate in just 24 hours, one day. So ZipRecruiter is not only thorough, it's also very fast. No more juggling emails or calls to your office. Simply screen, rate, manage candidates all in one place with ZipRecruiter's easy-to-use dashboard. And right now, listeners of the Costa Report can post jobs on ZipRecruiter for free. That's right. It's not going to cost you anything. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/Rebecca. That's ZipRecruiter.com/Rebecca. REBECCA. One more time. To try it completely free, go to ZipRecruiter.com/Rebecca. And you know what? If you've got a boss, all right, or owner of a company, or someone who's, having a hard time getting a job filled, be sure and tell them that the fastest way to find the best person for that job also happens to be free. Doesn't get any better than that. All they have to do is go to ZipRecruiter.com/Rebecca and post their job, and it'll go up on 100 job sites. And you heard me. The chances are very good they're going to be able to find the right candidate in just one day. And that's just about all the time we have this hour. If your station is leaving us after the first hour, my guest next week is former Deputy Chief of Staff for President Bush and political consultant. You know him well, Mr. Karl Rove. He'll be here to talk about the staff changes and controversy surrounding the first 7 months of the Trump administration and what needs to happen next. That's Karl Rove next week right here on the only news program that puts policy ahead of politics. You're listening to the Costa Report.
Hi, it's MZ for Dr. Wallach. Can you remember more politically polarized times in your life than right now? And yet, probably the one thing that we can all agree on is that our healthcare system is badly broken and ridiculously expensive, right? The burning question is, why is it that the United States spends more money on healthcare than all the other countries on Earth combined, and yet we rank 50th or lower in health and longevity? He believes that the reason is Big Pharma's obscenely profitable stranglehold on the public, thanks to a strategic ongoing campaign of willful but well-disguised misinformation. Listen and learn from Dr. Wallach. He has the knowledge, the advice, and the products to make you feel better. Go online to WeDon'tHaveToBeSick.com or call 831-607-9355 to talk to one of Doc's soldiers in his army to make America healthy again. Go online to WeDon'tHaveToBeSick.com or call 831-607-9355. 831-607-WELL.
Unexpected reactions to smart financial decisions brought to you by feedthepig.org.
Well, I finally did it. I improved my credit score.
You're kidding, right?
No.
How are we supposed to be the bad boys of electro-synth pop if you're out there being responsible? The band is about to be discovered. This is our year.
Yeah, you've been saying that for a while now.
You think anyone in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was worried about their credit score?
I never really thought that.
Of course they weren't. Rock stars aren't supposed to think about that kind of stuff. We're supposed to think about how many guitars we've smashed, write aggressively sensitive power ballads, start questionable fashion trends, tragically break up and blame creative differences.
All right. I thought maybe it was time to take control of my finances, Start using a budget. Get out of debt. Set some goals.
A budget? Debt? Set some goals? Listen, I knew that we'd have our creative differences, but I was hoping they'd involve a little more scandal.
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
The Costa Report is now heard in all 50 states on fine radio stations, including this one.